This is 19-year-old Sade Robinson leaving a bar with her date, unaware that these are the last hours of her life. While she's been enjoying the chance to meet someone new, her date has been focused on something darker, far darker. And just minutes from now, he'll put that plan into motion. What happens next will lead Milwaukee police into one of the most disturbing investigations of their careers.
That's gnarly, bro. Or just a bone. Ah, shit.
It just on the lake there.
You found a what down there?
A lake. Human lake.
It's a rainy afternoon in Milwaukee County when police receive a request for a welfare check on a missing teenager. 19-year-old Sade Robinson reportedly went on a date the previous evening and hasn't been seen since.
Miss Robinson! Milwaukee police, please answer the door. We're gonna come in otherwise. I don't hear anything.
Nobody's seen her since the date.
Sade is just 1 month away from graduating with a degree in criminal justice and has plans to join the Air Force. She is ambitious, hardworking, and punctual. So when she failed to show up for her shift at the local pizza shuttle, her coworkers knew something was very wrong. It has been less than 12 hours since Sade was last heard from, but her disappearance is troubling officers for unusually disturbing reasons. Earlier that day, a harrowing 911 call had come through to the Milwaukee Sheriff's Office.
We're about to sign by the golf course.
Okay. What's going on there?
No, we just on the lake there. It's on the lake, down by the lake on the clay.
You found a what down there?
A lake. Human lake.
The call has come from a remote stretch of beach on the Lake Michigan shoreline, right below a rocky area of woodland called Warnemont Park. As officers arrive, they find a man waiting at the scene who tells the officers he was walking with a friend when something caught his eye halfway up the bluff.
They walked down the esker from Sheridan, started walking south just for fun, rough day on the beach. As they were walking, see that leg right there? Yeah. Said that it was up about approximately where the end of that stick, that branch is.
By the bushes right there.
Yeah, bushes, said that they saw it up
So
there.
it's like up on the hill, kind of?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was about, maybe 7 feet. 7 feet each.
It's like a rock.
I moved it just for evidence purposes.
All right, hang on, Evan. We'll talk to you some more, okay?
The leg appears to have been cleanly sawn off at the hip. The victim is a young African-American female. Disturbingly, there is still pink nail polish on her toes.
If it's up on the hill, like I said, waves aren't going that high. If somebody could be killed and dumped over.
Let's clear the air, make sure there's not the rest of her up there. That's gnarly, bro. Yeah. Have you found one before? Or just a bone? Ah, shit.
This look well preserved. That's what I was saying. It looks like doesn't look that old. You know what I mean?
Officers have already made two important observations. The body part was not washed ashore, but thrown down from the wooded area above the beach. And whatever happened here occurred just hours ago. Both suspicions will prove correct. 10 miles from the discovery on the lakefront, a young woman has been reported missing, and her burnt-out Honda Civic was found on an abandoned property. While the vehicle has sustained heavy damage, some key evidence does remain. The registration plate belonging to Sade Robinson, the missing teen. Inside the trunk, her purse, shoes, and items of clothing. Police now have a missing woman, a burned-out vehicle, and a severed body part, enough for the Milwaukee County Sheriff's Department to launch a homicide investigation. While forensic teams begin scouring the lakeshore for remains, investigators arrive at the Robinson family home to break the tragic news to Sade's family. It is a routine first step in any investigation, but things are about to take a turn that no one anticipated. Sade's sister tells officers that she and Sade share the Life 360 app, a location-sharing app which tracks an individual's location with greater precision than any cell phone data. It could prove a crucial lead for detectives, and just as they hoped, the app provides the exact map of Sade's every move the night she vanished. Together with surveillance footage pulled from each of her locations, officers now have a complete account of her every last moment. This is Sade Robinson leaving for work on the morning of April the 1st. That afternoon, she exchanges several texts with a man she met just 3 days earlier, Maxwell Anderson, an insurance salesman turned bartender. Max met Sade when she applied for a job at the club where he works. By 5 p.m., they've settled on what seems to be the perfect location for a first date, the Twisted Fisherman, a restaurant overlooking the Menominee River. But by the time Sade arrives, wind and rain have emptied the riverside patio. She checks her hair and then enters the bar, where she greets Maxwell at the counter. At 33, Maxwell is considerably older than Sade, and he's made no secret of his interest in her. As investigators review the footage, several unsettling details catch their attention. Max seems distant, rarely looking at Sade or engaging with her directly. It could be nerves or something more concerning. Still, by the time they leave, the date seems to be going smoothly enough for them to continue on to a nearby sports bar. CCTV footage captures them walking toward Duke's on Water. They order drinks and play beer pong with another couple, two people just like them, enjoying their Friday night. Sade, at least, seems to be having a good time, but that, of course, is because she has no idea who Maxwell really is. While one team of investigators pores over surveillance footage, another is digging into Maxwell's past, and what they uncover is disturbing. Maxwell has a lengthy criminal record, including convictions for battery, assault, and domestic abuse. More troubling still, just months earlier, a woman had filed a complaint alleging that Max drugged her during a dinner date and then aggressively pressured her to go home with him. She had been so ill, she called a friend to come and collect her. They don't know it yet, but investigators have only scratched the surface. At this point, however, the information is not enough to conclude that he is capable of murder. Surveillance footage shows that at 9 p.m., Sade makes a fateful decision. She leaves the bar with Maxwell. They walk towards his car, their behavior unremarkable to anyone who might pass them. Maxwell briefly puts his hand on her waist as they cross the street, then drive together to Maxwell's house on the south side of the city. At around 9:25 p.m., a doorbell cam captures them arriving. Over the next few hours, faint silhouettes move back and forth on the upper floor, Maxwell's living room. The movement continues for several hours, during which time officers can only hope the date is panning positively, a hope far removed from the gruesome truth they'll learn just hours from now. The time is now 12 a.m. on April the 2nd, the same day the severed leg would be found on the shore of Lake Michigan. Footage captures two brief flashes as Sade unlocks her car, then drives in the direction of her apartment. But this is where things take a strange turn. Instead of driving home, surveillance cameras capture her driving aimlessly. For the next 2 hours, her Honda Civic moves between random locations, the windows fogged with condensation. Then, just before 3 a.m., the car changes course and begins to move away from the city. Officers soon realize where it's headed, to the western shore of Lake Michigan and Warmount Park. At 2:52 a.m., Sade's Life 360 shows her arriving at that park, where all movement stops. Her phone goes dead at 4:30 a.m. But why has she gone to this spot in the first place? Investigators pulled surveillance footage from a nearby pump house. What they see next is spine-chilling. Grainy footage shows the dark silhouette of a man approaching the bluff. Whoever it is, they are dragging something heavy across the rocks towards the lake. 90 minutes later, the shadowy figure appears again. This time, he's headed back towards the tree line, and he's carrying a large backpack. For investigators, identifying the man in the footage is clearly the key to uncovering who is responsible for Sade's death. Investigators return to the doorbell footage from Maxwell's apartment. Only one figure can be seen leaving that night. Officers assume it was Sade, but a far darker reality is now taking hold. Perhaps it wasn't Sade at all. Perhaps she never left the house, or at least not alive. The only way for officers to determine this is by accessing Maxwell's house. While they wait for the warrant to be processed, detectives canvass the neighborhood for witnesses and quickly uncover disturbing new information. Neighbors describe seeing Maxwell regularly digging in his yard, supposedly part of an underground room he was building. One neighbor tells detectives Maxwell's basement windows are permanently covered over with newspaper and what looks like painter's tarp. Each new detail is painting an increasingly troubling picture, but if anyone knows the truth about what goes on in that house, it is Maxwell's tenant, Pete Warbington, who rents the middle floor. Detectives bring him in for an interview.
Is there anything out of place or weird that you find down in the basement?
I just thought it was always a dirty guy, you know. When I go down there in the basement, the only thing that's really out of place, you know, he's got a bunch of tools and stuff everywhere, a bunch of paint everywhere, but it's always been that way.
Okay.
I didn't really notice anything in the basement since then that would be considered odd. I just thought he was an odd dude. He's always working on like arts and crafts, not arts and crafts, but like home he calls it home improvement, but he's obviously no good at it. And he would just do that constantly, building weird stuff, or, you know, he built that shelf that's above our washer and dryer out of like a door or something. And so he was always constantly doing like arts and crafts and stuff, and, you know, in the basement, as far as the basement goes, that's just how it's always looked. Okay. So I never thought anything of it. It's his house, you know?
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean, like an odd person? Like, what character? Like you said, just like the woodworking.
Yeah,
kind of
just
stuff?
the woodworking, and like he'd be building all this stuff, and he was constantly hammering. Like in his attic, I know that he did some work up there, and that was one of my biggest grievances with him. And it's like, I don't want to work all day and then come home and hear you beating on stuff, you know. And that's my biggest grievance. And it's like, well, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, I'm building a shelf for over our laundry. Like, you didn't need to do that. That's so weird. There's a 5-panel shelf right next to the washer and dryer that you're not even using.
Yeah, what's the big old hole?
He says he was gonna turn that into a shed with like a basement, and they said like when it gets cold in the winter, that's where I was gonna keep my dogs. And I'm like, this is the dumbest idea I've ever heard in my life. You don't like, you know. And he did do the fence around, and I appreciate that, having a dog. You know, I like a fenced in yard, and he did good with that. And I think that just kind of amped his head up to do all this other stuff, and he's got all these ideas and stuff. And that was supposed to be some kind of subterranean hole for his dogs, and then in the top it was going to be storage for like lawn stuff or whatever. That was his idea. And then there's another hole going like back to the garage. He said he was going to do an outdoor bar there. The guy's just weird, man. He had all these weird ideas that you just, as a normal person, you look at that and you're like, that's never going to work. You know what I mean?
It's not much to go on, but the very next day a woman will step forward with information that will place Maxwell squarely as the detective's prime suspect.
There's just one thing that I thought was really odd. So on Instagram, March 28th, he sent me this video.
Maxwell's ex-girlfriend shows police a video he had sent her on Instagram. It's CCTV footage of a suitcase containing the dismembered body of a young woman killed hours earlier by her Tinder date.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. That's pretty fucking weird.
What did you say to it? He said, please be careful out there. Because he was upset I was dating other people. And I said, that's fucked. And I didn't want to talk about it. He's like, yeah, sad. I'll leave you alone now, starting now. Because I didn't want to talk to him.
Meanwhile, another friend tells the police that just a month before meeting Sade, he saw Maxwell's basement covered from floor to ceiling in plastic, with saws and knives scattered around. Maxwell told them he planned to kill and dismember someone there, but the friend had dismissed it as another one of his strange antics. For officers, however, this is all sounding far more sinister. On April the 12th, 2 days after Sade's disappearance, a team of officers arrive at Maxwell's house with a search warrant, while another unit tracks his movements. But as soon as they begin tailing him, he turns and starts heading home. With few other options, officers intercept him 2 blocks from his house under the pretense of a traffic violation, and they arrest him.
32 head to southbound Hampton on, 45 southbound Hampton on for Apollo return for highway versus Chicago.
Any weapons on you, sir?
No.
Head on, stop. No.
What's going on?
Good. Somebody just radio it.
124 dispatch.
Stow.
Throughout the ride, Maxwell stays calm but looks visibly shaken, as if trying to work out why he's been arrested. He's taken into custody at the Milwaukee police station and escorted into an interrogation room, where he requests a lawyer and never speaks to detectives again.
Go up those stairs. Just take his 2 jackets, boots, belt, boots. You have anything in your pockets?
No.
You might just stand up real quick to double check the pockets. Just makes it work, man.
His strategy will do nothing to help his case, however. While Maxwell awaits in the county jail, investigators are busy combing through his apartment and downloading the contents of his phone. But here again, things are about to take an unexpected turn. Detectives searching the apartment are stunned to find no evidence of a crime scene, but all the appearances of one. In fact, this will be one of the most disturbing residences these veteran officers will ever encounter. Bladed weapons are in every room. Machetes, axes, knives, 51 blades in the kitchen alone. Blood spatters are visible on the walls, bedding, and flooring. In the basement, officers uncover a makeshift sex dungeon, complete with hidden rooms, slings, restraints, handcuffs, and torture devices. Shelves and drawers contain surgical gloves, duct tape, zip ties, and plastic sheeting. Most disturbing are the things hidden out of sight, stuffed between support beams and inside walls. Notepads listing women's contact details and personal information. Bags of women's clothing, shoes, and underwear, ledgers full of twisted fantasies, and in the garden, investigators find signs of Maxwell's interest in digging. But it looks nothing like construction work. Yet, for all its horrors, none of it directly ties Maxwell to Sade's murder. The blood is later determined to be canine. None of the knives test positive for Sade's DNA. There is no sign of a cleanup operation. However sinister this house may be, it's not enough to lay charges, and officers find themselves back at the drawing board. CCTV has provided investigators with every major breakthrough so far, and now they turn back to it once again. Someone drove Sade's car away from the beach that night before setting it on fire. But who? Investigators zero in on the area where her burnt-out car was found.
Bravo! It's slow! Yes, Poppy. Up back. Come on, you call the ambulance! Hey! Call the fire department! Hey! Call the fire department! Call the fire department!
Two witnesses have just seen a car on fire and asked someone to call the fire department, but officers quickly notice one other person in the footage. The unknown figure is wearing a hoodie and carrying a heavy backpack. He moves quickly, like he's trying to distance himself from the scene. A moment later, he reaches a bus stop and boards a city bus. The next footage comes from a camera inside that bus. A man's face comes clearly into view. Maxwell Anderson.
What about you?
It is powerful circumstantial evidence, but without a crime scene or DNA evidence and still nothing connecting him to her death, not enough. There is, however, one last piece of evidence that investigators have yet to examine, and it's about to provide detectives with the proof they need. When forensic technicians download the contents of Maxwell's phone, they discover dozens of images taken shortly after midnight on April the 2nd. Images of Sade that he had taken and deleted. At 12:04 a.m., Maxwell takes the first photo of the woman. She is lying face down on his couch, incapacitated, an arm over her face. In images that follow, she is in various states of undress. A white male's hands can be seen groping her. As he is taking photos, Maxwell has turned on an episode of the series Love, Death, and Robots. It features a dismembered corpse on a beach. Detectives have just one last thing to do. On April the 4th, Maxwell Anderson is charged with first-degree intentional homicide, mutilation of a corpse, and arson. In the days leading up to his trial, human remains continue to wash up along the shores around Milwaukee.
County 911, this is Brian. What is the location of your emergency?
Hi, this is Oak Creek. I have a caller on the line. She is going to be on the beach. If you and advise that she is out with a deceased body or body parts.
Okay.
It looks like the back and the butt and an arm.
A foot is found not far from the burned-out Honda Civic. Nearly a month later, an arm washes up on a beach in Waukegan, Illinois. All the remains have since been identified as belonging to Sade Robinson. During his trial, prosecutors argue that Maxwell's fast and confident actions that night suggested extensive planning. The evidence on his phone suggests Sade Robinson was drugged at his home before he killed her and drove away in her vehicle. The lack of any blood evidence in her car suggests that she was dismembered on the beach during the 90-minute window in which Maxwell was out of view of any cameras. He has not been connected to any further homicides. On June the 6th, 2025, a jury found Maxwell Anderson guilty on all counts. He was sentenced to life in prison. To this day, he protests his innocence.
I would like to start by saying that from the bottom of my heart, my deepest and most sincere condolences go out to Sade's family, as well as everyone else affected by this tragedy. That being said, Your Honor, I took this to trial without ever once trying to make a plea deal of any kind, because I did not commit these crimes. And so I plan to appeal my convictions while I hope and pray that further investigations not only prove my innocence, but find and deliver true justice.
In September of 2024, a mural of Sade Robinson was painted near the entrance of the Pizza Shuttle, where she once worked.
People grabbing a slice at Pizza Shuttle on the east side will notice something new. A mural of 19-year-old Sade Robinson, a face that regulars would recognize.
Wanted better for herself, she wanted better for me. And she was looking to join the Air Force, so she had been meeting with recruiters. That's how much she wanted to do everything that she dreamed of doing. Seeing her live her life as such a hard worker who never let anything stop her, I knew that she would want me to do that after I lost her, that she would want me to keep living. And so I'm gonna remember her by following in her footsteps and fill the hole that she left, although I know I can never live up to anywhere near her shoes.
We would like to extend our most sincere condolences to the friends and family of Sade Robinson.